Saint Vitus's Dance. Given affliction, the body will find a way. The body will turn itself to music. 1518, and when the first of the dancers takes to the streets, starving arms akimbo, it is because the crops have failed. The thresholds are plagued with ashes. It is because in the black mass of the body's sacrament, the remedy is fiercer than the curse. And when the searchers found the neighbor girl deep in the forest last winter, the blizzard lifting the worried fur of their collars, she had stripped naked, holy, as the freezing will do, the body gone mad in the last blaze of being here, the body blossoming into music. Once, the body says, once I knew a woman whose madness took the shape of infinite music, filling her body until nothing was left to her, and she became water, fire, a palace where her ghosts could enter, departing and hollowing her at will. It was not grace, exactly. And when they left for good and left her with nothing, she became the same song that the world would have sung without her. She stood above the promise of some river and looked back into the city of her one life, its fallow fields and endless choirs of fire. And she heard in time the music, and she became in time the music, and she listened for how it asked itself to end. Think of it, the first step forward, the tired soul like its own plague in its blazing, lifting up its mild eyes for the dancing. Think of it, the rising up, the wonder. Think of it, the brokenness, the holding. And then the moment when you look up at the wild skies, your one life in blazing flames around you, the moment when you do it, then you do it. The one thing the flesh can do with ruin. The one thing the doomed can do in ruin. The ruined ones who rise again in fever and are briefly like the saved ones, whose maddened dance of splendor is their rest.
You just heard Joseph Fasano reading his poem, Saint Vitus's Dance. The poem was published last month by the journal Rattle, and as mentioned in the journal, was written while Fasano was recently in self-quarantine in New York. Fasano is the author of 4 books of poetry. Fugue for Other Hands in 2013, Inheritance in 2014, Vincent in 2015, The Crossing in 2018, and he has an upcoming novel, The Dark Heart of Every Wild Thing, which will be released later this year. Fasano visited JMU last spring, where he read and discussed his work, along with how he understands the greater connection between poetry and philosophy and the ways that art gives expression to human truths in profound ways. And I'd like here in these first 2 video lectures to look at what his poem expresses here, how it can be understood to express the human condition as described by Camus, and how the poem itself and the act of creating it exemplifies Camus' Revolt. we can begin, well, at the beginning. So we find at its beginning the excerpt from the Encyclopedia Britannica's article on what has been referred to as the Dancing Plague of 1518. Fasano opens with a quote from this article. In 1518, hundreds of citizens of Strasbourg danced uncontrollably and apparently unwillingly for days on end. The mania lasted for about 2 months before ending as mysteriously as it began. Such outbreaks take place under circumstances of extreme stress, such as famines, diseases, and overwhelming stressors. Fasano here points us back through the centuries to 1518 to be precise, as a reminder to us that humans have always faced all kinds of overwhelming stressors, whether it be plagues, famine, financial ruin, or war. But what he in particular points to is this historical incident where in a village people danced as possibly and inexplicably a way to respond to these overwhelming stressors. His poem then reimagines this for us, this incident. It sings this for us. It dances itself through the rhythms and imagery in its language. It's as if Fasano is asking us to join him, to reimagine our response to our own afflictions, to sing ourselves through them, to dance our way, however absurdly, into a life we must love, despite that life's suffering and that immense silence of the universe around us, as Camus put it. So in the next video, we'll dig into this poem, open it up through the language of his poetry.